Hi everyone, this is Shashank Mishra, currently working as Data Engineer 3 at Expedia, and in today's video, I'll talk about few harsh realities of being a data engineer. And before starting the video, if you are new to the channel, then hit the subscribe button, and if you want to keep learning from industry experts, then don't forget to check out Scalers event page, link is in the description box. So when it comes to data engineering, then this is not the profile which everyone can enjoy. And I'm into data engineering since last 5 years, and based on my personal experience, I will talk about few harsh realities that you must be aware of before choosing data engineering as a career profile. So first is, if you don't have engineering mindset, then data engineering is going to be really hard. And when I talk about engineering mindset, that means it is all about the innovation. So in the data engineering space, when we create the pipelines, every single aspect has its own challenges. When we talk about the batch pipelining, it will have its own challenges. When we talk about real-time data pipelining, it will have its own challenges. And that is the part where your engineering excellence will come into the picture, because you need to innovate so that you can scale your data pipelines, you can even optimize it. And if you are not coming with that mindset into data engineering, then it is going to be pretty hard. And let me explain it with a clear-cut example. So let's say you are working in a company which is trying to create the scalable data pipelines. So within that organization, you are not the only team which is creating the data pipeline for your business use case. There will be multiple teams, for an example, payments team, flight booking team, and the marketing team, and everyone is completely relying on the data part. They want to analyze it, and for that stuff, we need to create different data pipelines. So let's assume you have a huge infrastructure of 100 or 500 data nodes and that big cluster where everyone is running their jobs. So each and every job will be occupying some resources as well to transform the raw data and deliver the final result. And seriously talking about the data engineering pipelines, it is not that hard and it is not a rocket science. So even if a person who is coming with a basic understanding, you can definitely ask them to create the data pipelines. But then what is the responsibility of a data engineer? There your engineering excellence will be needed, because you know the crux of whole engineering complexities. When it comes to handle the large volume of the data, you need to write the fault tolerant pipelines. When you need to handle the large scale of traffic, you need the load balancing. And when we talk about the computation part, you need to write your operation in such a way so that they are well optimized and your runtime is also very fast. So that is why if you are not coming with that kind of innovative mindset, you will feel data engineering very challenging. So as a beginner data engineer, the most challenging phase for me was to get the details about the infrastructure setup. Because when you start creating pipelines from the beginning, then you need to give the estimation to the teams that this is the amount of data we will be processing on daily basis, and this is how we want to set up our pipelines, and these pipelines will be running on some cluster. So according to the use cases and according to the processing amount, the cluster capacity will be created. And in most of the established product based companies, there will be a different DevOps team who will be taking care of these infrastructure related things. But when it comes to become a top notch data engineer, then it's your responsibility to have an in-depth understanding of how these infrastructure related thing works. You should have a concrete understanding of the DevOps related things, that how to even grant the accesses, how to set up those server related things, and how to even do the server side coding. So that is the part which is very much important if you are stepping into the data engineering. So if you want to kickstart your journey in data engineering, make sure you are coming with an engineering mindset. Second harsh reality is, you want to work as a techie, but you are not willing to understand the data domain. And I must say, this is the most crucial part of every data professional. Doesn't matter you want to become a data engineer, data scientist, data analyst. So your core responsibility is to solve mysteries around the data. So it's your responsibility to deep dive into the data domains as well. And here I will share my practical experience, which you can treat as an example. So as a beginner data engineer, the first project which I got, it was related to the aviation data domain. And before that, I had no prior experience of flight travel, but I had a really good understanding how aviation data looks like, how that flight connectivity will be happening, or we can even present on any web application with the help of the raw data. I had complete understanding what all events will be happening, even starting from booking the flight till the arrival part. So how I was able to get that information? It was completely based on the data domain understanding. And I'm honestly speaking, this is the most crucial part, even designing your data pipeline. And when I talk about data domain, let's say fintech domain, healthcare domain, banking and insurance. So I'm not telling that you need to be a pro into that data domain understanding, because this is the responsibilities of other external entities like the business analyst and the data analyst. But while designing the data pipelines, the whole understanding of different entities involved in that particular business, that's you are working in a fintech company. So you are not supposed to know everything about the accounting, that how debit credit entries actually work and how you aggregate the whole things, but you should be aware with those terminologies so that you can use that information pretty well while designing your fault tolerant data pipelines. Because before designing the data pipeline, the first part is the data analysis, and even to figure out what are the important required fields. Because in the raw systems, what happens when you start pulling the data, there will be garbage records as well, and you need to filter out, and that is the part of data cleaning and cleansing. Because when you will start processing that garbage data and you haven't applied any kind of filtration logics because you had no idea about the data itself, then your pipeline will be a complete mess, and this is something which is not expected when you will be working as a data engineer. So I will definitely suggest this part if you are moving into data engineering. So come with a tech background and technical mentality. Along with that, you should be always willing to learn new things about that data domain for which you are working. Third harsh reality, not following the best practices of software engineering. So in the beginning, for me, data engineering was a plain data engineering. Means just connect your data pipelines with few sources, apply the transformation, and just dump that transform data into the downstream system. But now this perspective has been changed. So for me now, data engineers are like software engineers who are closely working for the data. And when it comes to create the scalable and optimized data pipelines, we need to follow the modern standards. And the modern standard is CI/CD pipelines, means continuous integration and continuous deployment. So in the industry right now, there are few things which are really popular, like the versioning tools, Git, GitHub, and the microservice deployment related tools, Docker, and even the Kubernetes. And we will be having some automated frameworks as well, which can deploy our pipelines continuously. As soon as, let's say, you made some changes, you pushed it into the GitHub, there should be some mechanism. For an example, the Jenkins, which is really popular for continuous deployment. So as soon as your changes are done, instantly your code will be deployed into the test environment or the dev environment, and finally in the production environment. So this is the part which you need to focus as a data engineer as well if you want to upskill and you want to become a top-notch data engineer. And another best practice is writing the test cases for your pipeline, because your pipeline will be consuming some data, and based on the scale of the data which you might be consuming at given point of time, your pipeline might also get failed, because there are possibilities that the data which you are supposed to get, it is corrupted. And if you haven't taken care it in your pipeline, then again you will be getting the wrong output. That is why when we start building our pipelines, there are multiple stages of testings as well, like unit testing, integration testing, functional testing. And once all these testing parts are done, we will be doing the data quality checks as well. And even before that, in the beginning, there will be data validation related steps will be involved. So these are the overall best practices software engineering folks are definitely using while creating their applications. But now this has become a standard in the industry. So doesn't matter which profile you belong to, but when you are creating something which is related to the realistic products, be it the data or anything, you need to follow these kind of standards, like creating the CI/CD pipelines and having an in-depth understanding of these kind of tools and tech frameworks. And the fourth harsh reality is you are not flexible enough to work on different tool and tech frameworks based on the requirement. And this is my personal experience as well. When I started working in my first company, they were using their internal tools for building the data pipelines and the data computation. And that was the point which was my good experience as well and the bad experience. Why good experience? Because I wanted to learn. I wanted to see how this whole big data ecosystem worked, and that experience was pretty good. But when it comes to the tools and tech frameworks, that internal tool was something which was not outside that company, and that was the biggest concern for me. And after that, I took a decision to move into different organizations so that I can get an exposure of those tools and tech stacks which are the standard for the data engineering. And this is the point where you need to be flexible enough as well. Because as a data engineer, if you are expecting any company which can give you everything like good tech stack, good use case, good project, then it is not going to happen. At least you have to compromise on something. And this is the part you have to have that kind of flexibility. There will be multiple companies who might be working on their own internal tools. Best example, my Amazon experience. So Amazon was completely on AWS. So whatever pipeline I was building, for that I was using the cloud agnostic tools, the AWS services, and they had their few internal tools as well. So I cannot complain on that part to my team or my manager that I am not interested of using internal tools, because that is the part of your day-to-day activities. But you should focus on your priorities, that there should be tech stacks you need to focus to become a top-notch data engineer. And other aspect, let's say there will be companies who might be focusing more on the on-premises and open source tech stack. The best example is the startup companies. They cannot invest too much onto the cloud solutions or these things because that is a costly operation. So they will be focusing more on these kind of open source solution. So as a data engineer, you should have a good understanding of all those open source frameworks like Apache Hadoop, Apache Spark, Airflow, Flink, NiFi, Flume, and Apache Kafka, and many more. So that is how you will be able to adopt the new changes which will keep on coming, because technology is something which is changing every now and then, and that is the point where you have to be really flexible to adopt any kind of change. And the last harsh reality is too much hate for data governance and monitoring part. And this is the common across the IT industry. Doesn't matter you are a software engineer or a data engineer or a site reliability engineer. This data governance and monitoring part is very much important for any product and for any kind of company, because they want to give the smoothest customer experience, and for that they need to handle the massive scale of traffic at any particular point of time. And as a data engineer, since you will be working on huge volume of the data, so the way you are creating the pipelines, you need to take that whole ownership. At the end of designing the pipeline, you should have those kind of automated mechanism so that you can capture all activities which are happening with your pipelines, because there should be some unusual activities which should work like a red flag, that yes, this is the time we need to take some action, else our pipeline might get failed. And that is the part where data governance and monitoring come into the picture. And as an engineer, we always hate this part, because this is somehow related to the on-call process, which you might have heard for different companies, at least for the FANG companies, that they have a on-call culture, and the monitoring and governance part is actually related to that. So my personal opinion for this one, yes, we can hate this part, but understand it from the practical perspective. If you have created something, then you are the owner of it. So whatever will be happening with that pipeline, nobody else will come into the picture and will fix it for you. Else you need to design your pipeline in such a way that there are zero failure, which cannot happen. There will be chances of failure. So set up that mechanism that alerts are raised on time and you are able to monitor it properly. And for that we have different kind of tools as well. You should have a really good understanding of like pager duties, how to set up that one, and the Datadog matrices. And you cannot avoid this data governance part. This is my personal experience. You can do your best to minimize these kind of failures so that your life is also happy as a data engineer. So these were the few harsh realities of being a data engineer. But every coin has two sides, so does data engineering. And I hope with the help of this video, you can clearly understand the challenges which you might face as a data engineer. And let's say you have already started your data engineering journey, then feel free to share your experience in the comment box. And if you find this video informative, then hit the like button, share it with your fellow friends, and don't forget to subscribe Scalers YouTube channel.